This is a story about uncovering Nigeria's hidden conflict. We meet the children caught in the crossfire. And hear allegations that the army has murdered civilians. You often hear from people in Maiduguri that the largest casualty of the constant bombings and killings is the loss of innocent lives and basic human rights. And we hear from soldiers who say they're risking their lives to end this insurgency. This violence in Maiduguri is spreading across northern Nigeria and has reached the capital, Abuja. There are fears that if uncontained, it will destabilize the whole country and the wider region, with security implications for the rest of the world. My journey begins here, in the peaceful town of Kontagora in Niger State, in northern Nigeria. After a painful drive on potholed roads, the first thing I noticed was the women. On the high street they're fully covered, wrapped in their faith. For over 10 years now, Sharia or Islamic law has been in place here. They refer to the Quran for guidance, so alcohol would not be tolerated. Some critics refer to it as political Sharia, a more relaxed version, not strictly enforced, but brought in to appease the voters. In practice, the most serious punishments are still passed down by Nigeria's secular justice system. Peace reigns here. Christians and Muslims are getting on in this part of Africa's most populous country, with its mainly Christian south and Muslim north. But nestled behind this remote town are troops about to head to the front line in Nigeria's bloody struggle against homegrown Muslim insurgents. It's a battle that threatens the delicate balance between the two main religious communities in this country. This is the new Nigerian Army Training Center. They're getting ready for an important visitor. The center was launched 6 months ago to prepare the country for future security challenges. But it's clear to me the imminent ones are on everybody's mind, and that the training reflects this. This is the 9th batch to take the newly compulsory course. It has been redesigned with assistance from the Americans, Israelis and Pakistanis. The Muslim group they're training to fight has killed around 1,400 people since 2010 and struck fear into the hearts of millions. The group's official name is Jama'atu Ahl Sunnah Lida'awati wal Jihad, which in Arabic means people committed to the propagation of the Prophet's teachings and jihad. They've been dubbed Boko Haram, which translates as Western education is forbidden. They want to introduce a version of Islam which instructs Muslims to reject activities associated with Western society and to avoid a secular education. Boko Haram carry out regular suicide bombings in Nigeria. They give no warning of their attacks and remain a mainly faceless, secretive sect, which makes them difficult for soldiers to identify. That is especially apparent in the epicentre of the conflict, dubbed the home of Boko Haram, in Borno State. For many months there have been bombings and shootings in the capital city, Maiduguri. Residents say it's now like a war zone as the military patrols the streets and they have to abide by a nightly curfew. Parts of it are said to resemble a ghost town. The Nigerian state has sent the joint task force known as the JTF to handle the crisis. Alongside the police and intelligence officers, soldiers trained here will be sent to Maiduguri too. 22-year-old Private Ochi Joseph Sunday is from Benue State in the east of Nigeria. He's the only one of his 4 brothers and 3 sisters in the army, But that makes his mother even prouder of him, as she grew up in barracks, as her husband was in the Air Force and her father was a soldier. Having never experienced conflict myself, it strikes me how brave Private Sunday must be.
I watch movies like war movies and all that, so I see that one day I'll be a soldier so that I can fight and defend the integrity of my country.
Arriving at the training centre's headquarters, it's already been named after him, the head of the Nigerian army finds himself the man in charge at one of the most challenging moments in Nigeria's history. Lieutenant General Ejirika has made it his mission to expand and remodel the training program here to meet those demands. Right now, though, his focus is on the graduation of his newest set of recruits. New recruits are being taught counter-terrorism, and the military is running a Hearts and Minds campaign to get civilians to out insurgents embedded in their community. To some extent, this strategy is working, the quiet revolution that they're calling it here. And that is all credit to today's guest speaker, the head of the army.
As most of you are aware, the contemporary security challenges in the country are mostly that of terrorism, armed banditry, kidnapping, and other related crimes. I have no doubt that the skills you have acquired in subjects such as weapon handling as demonstrated, fieldcraft, intelligence training, as well as numerous exercises you have undertaken, have prepared you well enough to meet identified and envisaged challenges. The Nigerian Army thrives on discipline, without which your career will be short-lived. We cannot afford to see any of you being dismissed after this rigorous training. So watch your behavior all the time.
And then it's decision time. The excitement builds when it's announced who's joining Unit 21 at Giwa Barracks in Maiduguri.
Private Ochi, where are you going?
I'm going to Maiduguri.
Now, I saw you smile when you got up in the crowd when you heard that.
Yeah, you know, it took me unaware. I wasn't expecting it at all.
But you had to check from a colleague where you were going, and you looked a little shocked when they said Maiduguri.
Really, I was thinking of going to the east and not even west, not even north, but right about now I'm surprised going to Maiduguri, though I don't have any regret.
Have you ever been there before?
I've never been there. This is my first time of going there. I'm sure I'll like it.
Maiduguri's main threat is Boko Haram.
Yeah. We've heard about those Boko Haram stuffs, and I'm sure by now, maybe when we get there, they might need some gallant soldiers, or maybe we'll cool those situations. I'm sure when we get there, by the special grace of God.
What are you going to tell your family when you tell them that you're going to Maiduguri?
They'll be surprised, but I'm sure they'll encourage me and make me see reasons why I should not take it as a very bad place. It's all one Nigerian. It's all about carefulness, do the right thing, and you know, with God, everything is possible. So I don't have any regret or fear going to Maiduguri. I'm a soldier. I could go to any part of the world. That's my duty. I'll sign for it too.
Well, good luck with your trip.
Thank you.
While Private Sunday may not be too worried about what life will be like in Maiduguri, his boss is surprisingly candid.
Maiduguri troops need to be pitied for the situation they found themselves. It is not normal for people to attack from homes, same homes occupied by civilians. So that is the greatest difficulty. The situation is not the same in all other places. The larger population have come to realize that there is no justification for terrorism, and therefore in some other places They invite soldiers even when they find strange faces in their neighborhood. In the case of Maiduguri, I believe that the excesses have also been over-exaggerated. And I also believe that the terrorists too have exploited the situation prevalent by sort of adopting the tactics of human shield and sometimes deliberately setting houses on fire. And I want to also observe that they are also doing a lot of media work, campaign.
There are also lots of reports. We're inundated with human rights abuses that take place, detentions, awful stories that I'm sure you would be ashamed of if they were true. Is there a single serving military officer in court at the moment, on trial for any of these allegations?
I've not received a single case against any single identified soldier or officer as the chief of army staff.
My grandparents visited Nigeria in the 1960s. From family stories, I know that my grandfather, whom I never met but was named after, used to always talk to his family about a place called Maiduguri. When my grandfather Mark Joseph lived in Kano in northern Nigeria, trading hides and leather, he wanted to open an office there. It was the place to go for aspiring businessmen who could handle the heat. Welcoming too with its reputation for peace and hospitality. Having left the future of the army behind in Kontagora, I arrived in the capital Abuja to meet up with former officer Yahya Ibrahim Shinko, who served his country for 20 years.
General Azubike Ihejirika, how do you rate him? Is he doing a good job?
Yes, he's doing a good job, but only that. On the other side, he refused to admit that there should be a political solution to this crisis.
You talk about political solutions. Do you think we've gone beyond that? Do you think that the only way Boko Haram can be beaten, particularly if they're linking with other groups in the region, is through the bullet?
Through the bullet? I think the bullet cannot bring lasting solution to it. You know, in the same way that the military will be reimbursed with equipment, with training, the same people have their own strategies. They have their own places of receiving training. So, and as I have said earlier, they don't limit themselves to using small arms against the military forces. They can use whichever weapon is available to them. So if the military personnel will be restricted to using, as for example, AK-47, these people, as is known to everyone, they are using bombs against whoever they deem like targeting. So there is, honestly speaking, going to be loss of life, more loss of life and property if we should continue to think that this matter will be ended up by using bullets instead of coming into dialogue with these people.
The next day, I met Malam Mamu, a fearless newspaper publisher, who told me just how much this conflict in Maiduguri is costing the Nigerian state.
What we have investigated as media men, the state is spending about 300 million naira every month. Not to talk about what the federal government is spending on security issues in the country. So that is why some of us, are having the belief that even the security forces, some of them, doesn't even want this crisis to end, because by ending Boko Haram insurgency, by ending the Boko Haram crisis, it means, for example, the millions will stop coming. The situation in Maiduguri is hugely lamentable. Lamentable in the sense that, there is so much indiscriminate arrest. And most of these arrests, as the governor himself testified, are arrests of innocent people. And all these things, is breeding further insecurity. Because a lot of people, especially the younger ones, their minds are being polluted. What do you expect of somebody that believes he has not committed any offense, that believes he is not a terrorist? He was arrested. He spent 1 year in incarceration under torture. He was incapacitated. And when he comes out, what do you expect of him? He can easily be recruited into Boko Haram. What do you even expect his parents to do? or if you have younger brothers, they can be influenced into Boko Haram. So what we are saying and what we have been criticizing all this while is that, well, it is important for you to fight and apprehend or even kill members of Boko Haram because they deserve to be killed. It is also very important for you to preserve innocent ones. I think if I were you, I will ask them to give me the access to go and see the situation myself at Giwa Barracks at Maiduguri. Why are they preventing the press from going there? They should allow the Nigerian press and the international press to go to Giwa Barracks at Maiduguri to see what the situation is. Because this is very clear. There is gross human rights violation.
I now realised I needed to see Maiduguri for myself, but unlike in my grandfather's time, travelling there has become too dangerous. Rumours that Boko Haram were going to start kidnapping foreigners came true, so I went to speak to someone who actually lives there. Barrister Zana Mustafa was once involved in attempted peace talks with Boko Haram and now runs a school for orphans and vulnerable children, giving them both a Western and an Islamic education.
Future Progress Islamic Foundation School was established 6 years ago to offer services to orphans and vulnerable children who are roaming the street. And when we established it, we established the school to offer supportive services. And in doing that, we inculcated the basic moral Islamic teaching, at least to give them the positive moral values of the society, so that we put together the two curricula to give them the basic in society. When we started, there wasn't any crisis in Borno. When we started it 6 years ago, it was thereafter that this mayhem came into being.
His school sounds like a sanctuary in a city under siege, but one that I'm being told is not safe for me to visit. Reluctantly, I had to accept I could not get there. But there was another way to see what was going on at the school and elsewhere in Maiduguri. We obtained footage from the city, filmed covertly.
They cannot tell you why they are killing these people themselves, because they are only sent to go and kill at a very low pay, as said, not more than $5 to $10.
Thousands of people are still detained by security forces at places like this, which is nicknamed Guantanamo by locals. Parents are desperate for news of their children.
Muna cikin fargaba kullum. Yau kusan wata hudu akwai wanda aka rike yansa shekara. Ba ma gani yaran halin da suke ciki. Ba mu ganin su ba, ba mu san halin da suke ci ba.
Yana kwance a gida suka zo suka ɗauke shi, sai matar ta tambaye su ta ce ina za ku kai shi, shine suka mammare ta. To lokacin matan tana da cikin wata 6 da suka mammare ta har ta samu damuwa game da cikin, sai da na yi treating ɗinta. Yau shekara 1 da wata 8 yana wajen. Ban gan shi ba, ba abin da ban yi ba in gan shi in san me ya faru, ba har yanzu ba wani abin nan.
Now people are in detention in the GTF custody since 2011, up to date. People are in detention. Since they came to Maiduguri, they did not take a single person to court.
Duk na ɗauki lawyer an bi sawun ba abin da lauyoyi ba inda ba su rubuta ba, su rubuta national SS, duk national authority dai abin da a game da 'yan tsaro dinnan duk sun rubuta, ba wani ansa a game da shi. To na kashe sama da miliyan, sama da shi. za su yi hanyar da za su sako shi. Sun karbi kuɗin ba su yi komai a kai ba. In mutum ruwa ya ɗauke shi ko wuta an ka ba shi zai kama.
And there was a time I was going to my house around 7:30 p.m. and soldiers stopped us about 10-15 cars. Incidentally, before we arrived at the junction, some militants have shot a soldier. So the soldiers descended on everybody that was there. About 20-30 of us were told to come out of our vehicles. We were told to lie flat on the ground. We were kicked, we were slapped. We stayed on the ground for almost 2 hours with the soldiers brandishing weapons on our heads before they eventually allowed us to go.
Adam Abdurrahim was a primary school teacher. His widow says soldiers killed him in 2011 while on a sweep for Boko Haram. She says he pleaded he had nothing to do with the insurgents, but they shot him in the street.
Muna zaune muna cikin gida sai muke jin karan bindiga. To mu mun dauka irin ko ƴan Boko Haram ne suka shigo anguwan sai muka fita. To da muka fita sai muka ga motar sojoji din a tsaye. To akwai lambatu a bakin kofar mu din sai suka samu a ciki. Akwai rabin galan din kalanzin a cikin galan suka dora fetur suka juya na cikin jen din mu akai. Sai suka barbada a gidan suka gona. Ya kai minti 15 dai wanda suke kusa da wajen abin ya faru. Yana mai da baki da su. Duk da haka dai sai suka harbe shi. Suka harbe shi motar da ya fita ciki ma sai suka kona.
The widow and her 4 children have been compensated for the house and car. It's all smiles in the playground at Barrister Zana's primary school in Maiduguri, but the school's crying out for funding. The kids used to enjoy eating fish from the school pond. Now they sell them on to keep the place afloat. The school's oversubscribed as the insurgency is robbing children of their parents.
Because as I'm talking to you today, I have about not less than 115 names of orphans, children orphans that wants to be enrolled, and then about 1,006 vulnerables that wants to be enrolled into the system.
We are going to deal with crops germination class, how our crops used to grow.
But it's the chilling stories from the children themselves that reveal what it is like to grow up in the troubled city. A 12-year-old student explained what happened to her father.
Sun ka kalla kawai sun tura kofar sun shigo na cikin ɗaki suka tura da suka shigo sai suka daga labushan babaya suka jawo mun kuma mun mayar sun tafi da shi na ashe ba su tafi da shi ba sai suka harbe shi suka yanka shi da butan shi suka ɗauka suka wanke wukan da muka fito ta lilbe shi da muka fito sai muka yi alola muka yi sallah ni kuma na ce mama haka ne mutum ya mutu yake rasuwa ita ta ce eh.
Another 12-year-old told us a similar story, but with soldiers entering her house.
Da dare ne ni banna ne ina gidan kakana ne dama ina kwana sai sojoji suka zo suka bude kofar mu sai yana kwance sai sojoji suka zo aka kama su sai aka tafi da su a daddaren aka kashe su ina tuna shi wata rana ina kuka.
A third girl had a simple wish, in the words of a song, for a world without wars, living in harmony.
Of every nation, people like this one notion, to make God a place where truth is reign, like clean tower.
Across Nigeria, many worry that if resentment against the state builds, it may make recruitment for the insurgents easier. Boko Haram have broadened their campaign by kidnapping foreigners to further their wider regional ambitions. During my stay, I spoke to foreign companies that have been pulling employees' families out of Nigeria and global construction firms that have been closing offices in the north. Getting a grip on the insurgency and its epicentre at Maiduguri is now of international concern. As the bombs fall, the bodies pile up here at Maiduguri cemetery. Witnesses told us they saw around 20 clothed dead bodies delivered here in a yellow tipper truck and placed into a mass grave. It's not clear how they died, but they said these drop-offs happen regularly. Meanwhile, Private Sunday says he's getting used to life patrolling the streets and manning checkpoints in Maiduguri. When we spoke on the phone, he said it is a strange feeling not knowing who the enemy is, and a little scary. It's unsurprisingly the strangest place he's ever visited. Every night, he said, his sleep is peppered with the sound of bombs.
The use of every nation keep alive this one notion to make God a place where truth is reign, like clean tower, like clean tower.